All right. You guys should be able to see that, right?
Want me just to say something at the start
Sure.
of this? It's
If you want.
Scott, first of all, thanks. Welcome everyone to today's CLE presentation from the New Haven County Bar Association. I'm Eric Smith, one of the co-chairs of the CLE committee. And we're very happy to welcome back Scott Gombar to present to us today. I always liked, I wasn't on the last one Scott did. It got really good reviews. It was a seminar on phishing, or how to protect yourself against phishing. So I didn't have the opportunity to see Scott last time, but I always go to somebody's social media profiles when I'm trying to learn something about someone. And I thought yours was pretty cool. So a proactive IT specialist, a HIPAA consultant, an SEO expert, but also a chess enthusiast, baseball dad, and I like Uber nerd geek. That's pretty cool. Cool way to describe yourself. I like that.
Thanks. I don't know which profile was that. Was that Instagram?
I think that was Twitter.
Twitter? Oh, I haven't been very active on Twitter. I need to get active again. See, now that I know you're looking at me.
Everybody's looking. There's nothing else to do. Well, thanks for being here today. Thanks for giving us your time and your expertise. Thanks for sharing those things with us today. So
you're welcome.
I'll turn it over to you, Scott.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you, Eric, for that introduction. Yes, this is the part of our Tech Tuesday series for the New Haven County Bar Association. Today we're doing Microsoft Teams. Teresa DeGray, who I believe is on vacation in Disney or something like that, was kind enough to point me in the direction of the court systems documents for Teams. So some of that will be included here. We'll talk about some of that here. We'll start with who can use Microsoft Teams though. So Microsoft Teams, for those that maybe are not that familiar with it, it's kind of ironic that we're doing this on Zoom because we can do the same thing on Teams. And you can have more people on Teams than you can on the first tier of Zoom. Zoom, $15 a month or something like that is 100 people per meeting. Teams, I've heard unlimited and I've heard 250, so I'm not sure which one is true, but you can use Teams for free. So those of us with a Microsoft 365 account, you're paying for Word and Excel and Outlook and all that, and then you have an email address through Microsoft. Get the professional version of Teams, the commercial version of Teams for free included, which is kind of what we're going to review today. But what happens is sometimes people have Google, they're using Google Workspace for their email, they're using some other service for email. And so they don't have the commercial version of Teams. You can still use Microsoft Teams for free. They take some features away, which I will, let's see, is it on this slide? Yeah. So they take some features away, but not a whole lot. So you can still join meetings. You can still, get on video. You can still chat. There are still things you can do within Teams. You have less storage per account with the free version. I call it free because it's not with Microsoft 365. But you can, I can go and sign up with my Gmail account, scott.gumbar@gmail.com, and I can still use Teams. The free version includes unlimited chat messages and search, built-in online meetings, and audio and video calling for individuals and groups with a duration of up to 60 minutes per meeting or call, and for a limited time. So right now, I don't know if that's a pandemic feature or if it's something else, but probably related to the pandemic, you can meet up for up to 24 hours. I don't know anybody I'd want to be on a video call for with 24 hours. 10 gigs of team file storage. You get a terabyte if you have Microsoft 365, 2 gigs per person for personal storage, integrated real-time content creation with Office apps like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and OneNote. And that's part of what people miss out on with Teams. So I find that why people are resistant to Microsoft Teams is because when you use Zoom, it's simple. You click the link, you get on the meeting, and maybe you put a virtual background or you don't. With Teams, you could do that and then all this other stuff, and I think people might feel a little overwhelmed with that. Ability to communicate and collaborate with anyone inside or outside your organization. So I have a Teams account. I have a Microsoft 365 account. You'll see in some of my screenshots, I can communicate with people outside of my organization, even if they don't have a Microsoft 365 account. The features that are only available with the paid 365 account: additional storage with plans up to 1 terabyte, rich file collaboration in Office desktop apps, additional app integrations, which I'm going to show you, and also the collaboration, advanced IT controls. Basically, someone like me can, add or remove features so that you don't have somebody in the company going nuts with the features. And then security and compliance, of course. We all have compliance needs, some of us more than others. So we're going to talk about the basics and then some advanced features. But if you don't already have Teams, if you have Microsoft 365, which I know that's the preferred email collaboration suite for attorneys, but I know not all attorneys use it. It is included with Office 365. And then I sometimes get phone calls saying, I have this application popping up on my computer, Teams. I don't want that. What is that? Because it's not always known that it's included. It's installed when you install Microsoft Office 365, and it will start every time you turn on your computer. You can make it so it doesn't start. That's up to you, but that's a different PowerPoint. Log in or download at this address, microsoft.com/en-us/microsoft-teams/login. You can use the web-based version of Microsoft Teams. You don't have to use the desktop version. I just walked someone through this yesterday. They were having a hard time because they were using the web-based version and they needed to use the desktop version because the desktop version is the one that allows you to share your screen. The web version does not. And then you can also search in Google Play or Apple Store. You can add it to your mobile device. And you can, just like Zoom, take it with you on the go. Joining a meeting, this is what most of us do with Teams when we need to, right? So you get an invite, and I purposely sent this to a Google address so you could see what it looks like. So I still have the same type of email where it'll ask me to add it to the calendar so that I get a reminder. If you do this with Outlook, it does it automatically. And then down below is the click here to join the meeting. You can join. Doesn't matter what email address you use, you just have to have an email address. I think most of us have at least one at this point. You click the link and it opens up Microsoft Teams, either the desktop version or the web version. If you don't have the desktop version, it'll go to the web version. If you do it from your phone, it'll open up the app. If you don't have the app, it'll probably ask you to download it. You can also just dial in if you want. So similar to, I believe, WebEx does. I think Zoom does it too, although I don't think I think some people do. You can dial in. You don't have to get on camera. You don't have to connect to through the app. You could just dial in. The meeting invite will include the phone number and the meeting ID number. It will not be the same for every meeting, so even the phone number will change. So you'll need to make note of it when you get the meeting invite. But the easiest thing to do is click here to join the meeting, and it will open up whatever's appropriate for you. You should, if you're going to use the app and you plan on getting on camera and or talking, make sure that it allows your camera access and microphone access, especially if you're using it in the browser. The web-based version of Teams, your browser will ask if you can use camera and microphone for that application. It's a little trickier in the browser because it's harder to find once we're very click happy. Once you see a pop-up, you're going to click yes or no without even reading it. So it's a little bit harder to find if you click out of it, and you'll have to do some clicking. It's usually in the address bar, there'll be like a camera icon or something like that. But make sure you select that so that you have access to camera and mic if you need it. Oh, somebody's entering. Naive question, can we get it on a Samsung phone as well? Yes, Samsung is Android based, so yes, you can. Feel free to ask questions. I don't have a problem with that. We'll have time at the end for questions as well, but I don't have any problem being interrupted to answer questions. But Samsung phones are Android based, so it should be in the Google Play Store. And these are your controls during a meeting. So you have the timer, how long you've been on the meeting. This turns the camera on and off. This is your microphone on and off. And then one thing that's not, there probably is a way to do it in Zoom. I'm just not aware of an easy way to do it. this share a file. So if I want to share a file while I'm on a meeting, I can do that. So maybe I want to upload a Word document or a PowerPoint or something to share with everybody else. I can do that within Teams, and that's this icon here. This is your more actions. So under that, you have show device settings, review or adjust your video source, audio source, show meeting notes. This is where you can take notes to review later. Something you can kind of do in Zoom, but not really. Show meeting details, date or time of meeting, call a phone, copy a link to join. So if you want to send it to someone else while you're in the meeting, you can enter full screen mode from there. You also have access to a keypad there, and then the dial-in information if you needed it. Here's your chat function here. And this shows your participants, and this is if you want to leave the meeting. So those are pretty similar to what Zoom does, but this toolbar is available whenever you're on a video or any type of meeting within Teams. Good point, Cheryl. We should do this in Teams. I didn't do it with this group, but I have offered to do this within Teams before, and everyone's, no, let's use Zoom. It's easier. And I get it. Zoom is easier. It's a lot less intimidating, I think, is what it comes down to. But yeah, we can do this again in Teams. We'll have that'll be the quiz. If you can get into the meeting, then you pass. So some tips. This comes from the documents that I was sent over from Teresa. Use an appropriate background. I will tell you, I don't do as many meetings on Teams, although I have one today at right after this. I have been on Zoom calls where the person was clearly not prepared to be on a Zoom call. There was one incident recently where a gentleman stood up, had a towel wrapped around his waist, the towel fell, and that's all he had on. He recovered pretty quickly, and I don't think many people noticed, but he was clearly embarrassed. So, make sure that your surroundings, as I see cameras get turned off, make sure your surroundings are appropriate for the meeting, especially if you're with with another attorney or you're meeting with the judge. Find a place that has a blank or solid color wall. Virtual backgrounds work, but they also, as you can see with mine, you can see a little bit of a I don't know, a glow around my head. I guess it's not the sun. I'm not outside. It's just the way virtual backgrounds work. You should choose a professional virtual background. Teams and now Zoom also does have the ability to blur. I think somebody's on here with a blurred background, actually. The ability to blur the background as well, which is actually kind of cool. I just prefer the virtual background myself. Ensuring that you have adequate lighting and is really important. So I've seen where I'm not going to pick on you. I'm not sure who DV1793 is, but right now you could see the sun in the background, and you can barely see your face. So if you're in you don't need to be professional around me, but if you're in court, you want to make sure that the judge can see you and everybody else that's on can see you, right? But I've also seen the opposite, where there's not enough lighting at all and it's very dim, and so that's not very professional either. Avoid sitting in front of a window. We just talked about having natural light directly behind you, as it may affect your camera's ability to provide a proper image. Be familiar with how to dim the screen brightness on your computer screen. I actually find my screen brightness helps. Identifying technology support contacts. So if you are sort of a novice with Teams and you have an appointment, or just technology in general, and you have an appointment and you want to make sure everything's running smoothly, have somebody on speed dial ready to assist, or even with you ready to assist if need be. Create a contingency plan if laptop malfunctions. One contingency plan is just have the app on your phone so you can join by phone. Again, very similar to Zoom, right? Where I think most of us probably walk around with Zoom on our phones so that we don't have to be tied to a desk all the time. Make sure you have access to all the documents you need. Teams makes that pretty easy. So with Zoom, you can't do that. Teams, especially if you have a Microsoft 365 account, and we're going to get to that shortly, your documents are going to be available to you within the Teams application. But even if they're not, you can upload them. And this is this is actually from the Microsoft site, but this is also available on the Connecticut Core System site. And I know it's a little hard to read, so I'll kind of go over it as best as I can. We're going to go over each section individually too, but so this is Teams. This is what it looks like when it's open. And this is why people get overwhelmed, because there is a lot going on here. So move around Teams, you have these icons on the left, and you have some stuff across the top, depending on what you've selected on the left. And then over here is your account type stuff, like managing your profile picture and things like that. View and organize teams, that's the Teams button here. We're going to go over that in a moment. Find personal apps, we'll go over that as well. Add apps. There are, I don't know the number, but I would venture to guess at least 100 apps that you can add to Teams, including Zoom for some reason. Every team has channels. So within a team, you would create channels. So I could say, so I have a team called clients, and that's where my clients can communicate with me if they wanted to. Most of them don't, but they could. And within that, I might create a channel, and that channel might have each client. So I might have client A, client B, client C. Those are the channels that's under the team. And that's the way to kind of keep it organized. You know, and you might have a channel for each case you're working on. You might have a channel for the different departments within your firm. You know, whatever that looks like, you might have channels for. And then you might have channels for external as well. So all my clients are external. So they'll have a channel for each one. Start a new chat. That's this icon up here, right next to the search. You can add tabs. I'm going to show you that in a few slides. There's a command box similar to your Windows search. You just type what you're looking for in there, and it'll help you out. Profile settings are all here. Pretty generic, same type of profile settings you'll find anywhere else. And here's where you manage your teams. Once you've selected teams, you manage your teams from within here in this part. So you can see this one says Mark 8 project team. I don't know. This is a Microsoft screenshot. So, and then that's the team, and then research and development is the channel. This is my team. So one of the things I've done with teams, and this is actually in the team screenshot. So these are my teams. I have clients and then internal support. Mostly for if I have someone working on something and they need help. So what I've done is over here, I have these tabs. So I only have a few. I have posts, files, and then there's a wiki tab, I think is there by default actually. But if not, you can add it. And then within the wiki tab, I add wikis for how to resolve certain issues, kind of stranger issues. So this was a migration I did for someone that Microsoft decided to enable Microsoft Modern Authentication, and it was causing problems with the migration. So I left this here so that I had it to go back to for a resource. And then I added Excel. I have an Excel document there that I use for tracking purposes. And then this plus sign, if I were to click on it, which I did not want to do just now, if I were to click on it, there will be other things I can add that I'll show you shortly. But I find for me, you know, having a wiki, so within the IT world, you know, we have tools like Sharepoint, which this connects to Sharepoint. If you have a Microsoft 365 account, it will automatically connect to Sharepoint every time you create a team. And that team now has a Sharepoint site. So you don't even, you see you created a website, you didn't even have to do any work except come up with a name. From within there, I can now go to these three dots here, and these are apps that I've already toyed around with, I guess. In some cases, I use PagerDuty. I don't think I really use. I probably used Whois. And Wiki I've used. You know, PagerDuty for me, it just alerts me to critical problems when I'm sleeping. But the rest, I can click on more apps, and you'll see a ton more apps. I'll show you the live version in a moment. But you can add whatever apps you want here for productivity. Something you use to, to-do lists or account. I think Calendly is in here. I use Calendly. I use Whois to search up who owns a website for email purposes. But there's a lot, and I think all the Microsoft apps are in here. All of that stuff is under apps, and you can add that to here, to the general tab. And that's where this plus sign comes in. This is an actual chat. I blotted out, I redacted in white, so you really can't see it. I redacted the conversation, but this is an actual chat I have within my teams. And again, that's just up here. There'll be a chat icon, or you can go here and then you just start a new chat by clicking this little pen and paper type icon. You can then, if the person isn't already here, you type in their email address. They'll get an email saying you're inviting them to that chat. And it, again, doesn't matter if they have a Microsoft account or not. As a matter of fact, this one says external. I'm not sure if they have Microsoft or not, but this one says external. This is the activity feed. My activity feed, again, I don't use Teams often, so my activity feed was blank, so I wanted to give you a better screenshot of what it looked like. This activity feed is showing, what it does is show, and I don't remember the time frame, but it shows the most recent activity. And after so many hours or days, it just automatically deletes. But this will show you the most recent activity for your Microsoft Teams account. And that was the top button, the little bell icon. So this is Teams again, but now what you're seeing is the posts. So the posts might include, it's not recent activity, but it'll include most activity. And what I did is I added this. I did this back in February, so you know that's not recent. There's the Excel document I added, a team meeting, a test meeting I created for someone. And then I created a meeting for this NHCBA test, just so that you had that screenshot I had earlier within Google, and I sent it to my Gmail account. So this is showing all the posts from me. So the point of Teams is really to work together collaboratively. And I know that for the court systems, I don't know the reasoning behind it, because everybody has different reasons. Some schools prefer Google, some prefer Microsoft. I don't know why, but it's, maybe preference by the IT plays a big part in it. But the idea behind Teams is collaboration. So I can take a document, if I go back to this screen here, and collaborate with somebody else that's in this team and channel. So if I go back to where Alan was chatting with me, and me and Alan and I want to work on a document together, we can do that within Teams. And it makes it easier to edit, to chat while we're talking, start a meeting if we need to. The document gets saved within Teams, and then we don't really have to worry about emailing the document back and forth. We don't have to worry about waiting for an email from one or the other, or a text message from one or the other to update the document. We're doing it in real time from within Teams. Some of the features that you can do for, like I said, work on a file together in the conversation, you click on the Files tab, which is right here. That is there by default. Select more options, and then next to File, and then choose if you want to edit the file in Teams or on your desktop or online. So you can edit the document from within Teams, never have to leave that platform, and have it done before you disconnect the conversation. Select conversation to add a message. And like most platforms, if you put an @ in front of somebody's name, once they're in that channel, it will alert them to the conversation. If you want, where is it? To add a plan. So you can also create plans within Teams. So if you want, if you want to have a plan laid out for whatever you're working on, a project management plan, then you click on the add a tab. That's this plus sign. And again, I'm going to show you live in a minute. And then choose planner. In the planner dialog box, you create a new plan or use an existing plan. You also, again, as I said, once you create a team within Teams, you automatically connect to SharePoint. And I'm going to show you what that looks like, sort of. in a moment. But SharePoint is very powerful, and maybe we'll do a CLE on SharePoint at another point in time. But what it does is it allows you to centralize all your document storage. You can have web pages for, you know, if you want to create an informational page to be internal to your organization, you can do that. It's like a hub, I guess you could say, like an intranet site. So a website internal to your organization where all your documents and everything are accessible. It connects to OneDrive and it connects to Teams. So let me show you Teams in the real world. Okay. No, that didn't work. Try that again. Are you seeing Microsoft Teams right now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Oh, okay. I was looking for the green highlight. It wasn't there, but now it's there. All right, so this is my Teams. Again, I don't use it often, so you're not going to see a whole lot in here, but you can see right now it's got me marked as not being available with the little red dot. And that's because I have this appointment on my Outlook. So it connects to Outlook automatically and tells anybody within Teams that I'm busy. Not that that's going to mean anything to anybody, but you can click on Meet and it will start a meeting right away. I don't know what my camera's not available, so it's not going to work, but it'll start the meeting. You name the meeting, whatever you want to name it. Make sure your microphone and your camera are on. You can use room audio. I don't recommend it. The audio doesn't really work out too well usually. And then click join now, or you could schedule it. There's an option to schedule by clicking this little arrow here, schedule a meeting. If you've already got the meeting invite, you just need to click on the meeting invite, the link in the meeting invite that says go to meeting. You can get a link to the channel and send it to people. You can, you know, all your management is here. Open in SharePoint. That's going to take me to another screen, so I'm not going to do that now. But up here is where I have all the files that I've uploaded to here. But even better is if where is it? All files right here. You'll see all the files that I've worked on within my Microsoft 365 account. So that's files on this side. There's my wiki again. There's an Excel. I'm not going to open there. But these are some of the apps these are some of the tabs I can add. And I don't know what some of these do. Some of these I do, but you know, you might have an application that you use every day of your working life, or even, you know, outside of work, and you want to have access to it within Teams because it'll help you with productivity. It could be here. You know, I'm just looking for something that I know my kids use Kahoot, so Kanban is a good collaboration tool. You know, I don't know. There's probably something in here that you might use. Let me see if Todoist is in here. So I use Todoist. Is it here? I don't see it, but I'm sure there are to-do lists here. Microsoft has one built in anyway. Tasks inbox, maybe that's a to-do list, but there are, you know, you see all the apps that you can add. YouTube is here in case you want to go down a rabbit hole while you're working. My calendar, we didn't go over calendar. My office calendar is here. You can set up phone on Teams. I have not done that. You can also call to people that are in your organization or that you've communicated with in the past within Teams. So you don't actually need a phone. You could use your mobile phone to do it. And then here's all the apps again. So these are the ones that it says recent, but I don't remember ever touching all these. And then here's everything. So, you know, Service Desk Plus Cloud from Zoho. I know some people use that. Forms you might use. If you use Azure, there's some Azure stuff in here. Trello is a good what's the word I'm looking for? It's not really a yeah, I guess it's for project management. Not really a to-do list, but it could be used as one. Weather, if you like me, you'd like to watch the weather. Jira, some people use Jira. SharePoint is all here. So SurveyMonkey gets used a lot. Cisco WebEx, Zoom is on here. There's a Starbucks. I don't know what you would do with that, but it's there. So I don't know if anybody wants, we can do a chat now. If anybody has Teams, and we could show everybody how to. Chris, I think you have Teams, right?
I do. Yeah.
And what is?
Neil does also. There.
Okay.
You can use me for an example.
Okay. What's is it? Chris at
nelsonvado.com.
I don't know what that 34 test is. So you can see Chris says he's busy too, because it's probably tied to his Outlook calendar. And he said hi back. I interrupted his meeting. But it's really that easy. You just type in, if it's easier if they already have a Teams account, which a lot of people do at this point, because Teams was letting people use it for free for up to 24 hours per meeting, where Zoom was, I think, 40 minutes or an hour or something. If it's one-to-one, then they let you use it unlimited. I don't know if that's changed yet, but if you had more than 2 people on, they cut you off after 40 minutes for the free account, whereas Teams did not. So you could have potentially a video conference with people for 24 hours and you're using the free Teams account. And I say for free, meaning you don't have a Microsoft 365 account. I don't have any recent activity, but that's pretty much all of Teams. I have another chat here. What's the benefit of using apps within Teams environment? So it really depends on the person. So I like I said, Zoom, I thought I added Zoom, but I don't see. Oh, there it is. I don't know why. I just added it because it was there. I don't know why. Yeah, I'm that guy. I don't know why you would use Zoom within Teams. It doesn't make sense to me, but it is there. However, I added Excel, and that does serve a purpose for me. The wiki, I think the wiki was there by default, but I'm not 100% sure on that. It does have a remove option, so maybe it wasn't. Yeah, see, files doesn't, so it's possible that it was added by me. So the wiki I find useful because if I'm working on something and I know I'm going to need to go back to a resource, I put it here. Or because on my browser, I have, I don't know, at this point, I probably have more than 1,000 bookmarks. So this is easier because I don't have to filter through all the bookmarks to find it. Or if I, as I onboard people to help with my clients, they have this to go to. They're not going to know, where to find it. This was another one here. This is a problem I run into a lot with Office 365. Not doing a good job of selling Microsoft, am I? This is a problem I've run into frequently with Office 365. So I have this here in case somebody that is working for me needs this as a resource and can go and fix the issue. This has to do with Outlook not working properly. So those are the types of things that I would add. And I don't know what else is here, but I might have a reason for forms or to get to my entire document library. Visio is another tool that I sometimes use to diagram a network. Word I might use sometimes. Maybe I add a website. These are on Power BI. I think some attorneys use Power BI if I'm not mistaken. SharePoint, if you use SharePoint, I've had some conversations about SharePoint with some attorneys, so I know that is out there. So some of these make sense, right? Some of these probably don't make any sense at all to us, but it might make sense to someone else. I'm looking for something that would just be like, why? Grow 360, I think, is some kind of marketing tool. Yeah. I don't know what, like KBot 365, no idea what that is. Karma, no idea. So I wouldn't be able to answer that question for that.
Hey, Scott, can I just ask the question as opposed to retyping a follow-up question?
Sure.
I guess my question is why would you have apps within the Teams environment at all? Is it because you think you're going to be working primarily within the Teams environment, and this is just a way of not having to exit it to access other things? Or is that because you want to be able to open up Word or Excel or any of these applications within Teams because you intend to share documents, share screens within the Teams environment? Maybe, is that what I'm missing here?
Yeah, no, so you're right. That your second part is probably more accurate. Right now, I think what Microsoft is trying to do is the first part. So they want this platform that's all inclusive. So Teams really, Microsoft bought Skype years ago. I don't know when now. They bought it years ago. Skype is built into Teams now, even though Skype still exists on its own. And then they added all this other stuff. So a lot of this was within the pandemic they've added. But even before that, they were doing this, you know, I can go back 3 or 4 years now that I know they've been doing this. They were also trying to compete with Slack. So the idea was compete with Zoom, compete with Slack. I don't know if anybody uses Slack on here, but Slack is similar tool, not quite, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles, but it has more than Zoom does, but it doesn't have video conferencing. So if you combine Zoom and Slack, I think I just gave them an idea, but if you combine Zoom and Slack together, you kind of have what you have here in Teams. I think the goal is to keep everybody within the Teams environment. Maybe somewhere down the road, I know another thing Microsoft is trying to do is compete with Google as far as Chromebooks go. So maybe Teams is what they envision the Microsoft version of a Chromebook to be in the future, where you can edit documents and work within all these tools on a machine that doesn't have Windows installed locally. I don't know if that makes sense to you. That would, to me, would make sense because I know they have some interest in doing that. I do see this. I don't know if anybody's familiar with it. Law Toolbox. I don't know if manage deadlines and search for files with our bot and tab. So I don't know if anybody has interest in that, but that's there. Did that answer your question though?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? I'm going to go. Oh, Wendy Mangillo is joining. Let me go back to my PowerPoint. Okay.
Scott, there's a couple of questions or points
Sure.
in the chat. Do you see them or do you want me to read them
Yep,
out?
no, I think let me see.
One about sharing documents and one about
Oh, share documents in Teams. Okay, sure. Let me go back.
and one about, I think, doing a Teams conference because the court uses it.
Yeah. So I was going to ask, is there any scenarios where that you can think of right now that I didn't touch on when it comes to courts? Let me find a document here. Oh, that's not me. No idea what this is. Nope. Well, yeah, this is a good one. So this was supposed to be another wiki that I guess I never added. So if I wanted to share this, I've opened it within Teams. So it's not open in Word, it's open in Teams, and I can open it in Word in the desktop app. You guys are able to see that, right? Yeah, okay. But I can also share. So where's should be a sharing. Open in browser. Well, you could copy link. Where's the share button? Share, here it is. Share with people, similar to if you use Dropbox kind of, or Google Drive, kind of the same idea. You can copy it and it does have to be people within your organization by default, but you can then change it to anyone with that's not letting me do that. It could be, yeah. So it's my organization settings. So within Microsoft 365, you can change the settings so that you can share it to people outside of your organization. Specific people. So I can, type in, this is everybody within the organization with the link. So that's how you share a document, and then they can edit it and you can see the edits in real time. Again, I think this is going down the road of what Google Drive does now, where you can edit a Google Doc and you could see the edits. I worked with on a project that involved a lawyer and a content developer, and we edited the document in real time, and you could see in Google Drive, and you could see the edits as they're happening and who's doing it and so forth. I think that's the direction Microsoft is trying to go here. More web-based, less desktop-based. It's going to be a matter of preference at some point. I think there's already Windows virtual desktops out there. So, but that's what it looks like. So you go to File and then Share. And I think that was it for the questions. Yes, I agree that we should do this on a Teams, maybe second half of the year, when it starts to get cold again and you guys don't want to be outside. Any other questions?
So
Right.
mine is not a question so much
Go ahead.
as just a little bit pro tip. I think for people who are using this, for court especially, but not just that. One of the things that Teams stole from Zoom is a nice little feature for unmuting yourself. So I think you're probably, if you've done any of this with court or any other meetings, too many people aren't on mute and you get all this feedback, etc. So it's good to mute yourself. But if you're muted and you just hold down the space bar, you unmute yourself temporarily, and then you let go of the space bar and you're back to mute. So you don't have to constantly be clicking all the time. And people being unmuted and having the feedback just drives everybody crazy.
Yeah.
Are there any specific suggestions you can give us about the use of Teams in the virtual court appearance setting? I mean, this is what the court system is using.
Right.
Are there any things we ought to be conscious of?
I would say be conscious of, I think probably the biggest thing being prepared, and then just making sure that your background is, you don't have, I don't know, a party going on in the background or something. Those are probably the two biggest things. Once you've dug in and used Teams a few times, it's not that hard. I admittedly do not use Teams that often, but it's more because of other people's choices, not mine. I have, like I said, I have another meeting right after this that is on Teams, and it's a 3 or 4 time a month meeting, and we always use Teams, and it's get in and get out for the most part, never any issues. Microsoft, like everybody else, occasionally has outages, but as long as you're prepared, there's nothing you could do about a Microsoft outage.
So David, I'll just jump in with that also, since Scott hasn't had the benefit, I hope, of being involved in any court hearings with this. My experience has been good overall with court. Generally, it's not, I haven't been able to do anything where they've needed to share documents. So really the main thing is to just make sure you connecting your video setup. And what the court does is, as you're probably aware, they email you, or in the court order, they when they set up the hearing, they set up something where you have to email them your contact information, and you get an invite. And that invite then generally, if you're set up at least through Outlook, is in your Microsoft Teams calendar already. You can log in advance, days in advance, actually, to make sure everything is set up. Nobody else will be there. At least that's been my experience thus far. I guess you could potentially wander into something, but I've never had that happen yet. They're individual meetings. So you just make sure you're set up. And I think, if these things, continue to be used in some form or fashion, I think getting good at sharing documents is very useful. And I think that's just a matter of, practicing it, and you don't need a court setting to do that. You can set it up with either another attorney or somebody in your office. But I think being able to reference, documents and highlight things and things like that is particularly useful. And it's just a matter of practice. It requires you loading up those files on your computer, having Windows open generally. But no matter, what kind of storage you use, you can, share documents. And I think that's pretty important.
Yeah,
Thank you.
those are really good points. Yes, I have not been to court on Teams, thankfully. The other thing I will say is I know that there is a need for some to be able to log into different accounts for Teams. Teams does not allow that natively. So what the workaround is to log in on the desktop app for one and then a browser for the other. So you can do that. I don't know why you would use that for court. I don't think there's a reason to do that for court, but there is there are scenarios where that applies. And then yes, the document sharing, I understand that the numbers are declining, people are starting to get back to normal. I don't think the world before March of 2020 is ever going to come back fully. So I think we're going to see more virtual stuff even after the pandemic is declared over. So I think it's important to get used to Teams and other tools that make these things easier for you to be able, when you're in court, you have to share documents, right? With the judge or whoever. So it's probably easier to get used to those things. And by the way, I'm open. If you ever have questions, I'm always open to, I'll jump on a Teams call and show you around. And I do see, we're going to see, I personally think sooner rather than later, particularly since the courts are using it. So that's in regards to doing this again in Teams. I'll leave that up to Eric and I guess Cindy to try to schedule something. And what was the other question I saw here? Copy the slides. This is recorded, so that'll be there. And then as an naive question, can you invite the client if they had not been invited by sending? Yes. So you send an email. When you create the appointment in Teams, it's very similar to Zoom. If you connect it to Outlook, it'll ask you to put in the email address and then send it to them. And actually, as I'm looking at Zoom, I see this file option here. So you can actually upload files to Zoom now too.
So Scott, maybe in connection with a demonstration or a CLE that has you on the platform in real time, the actual platform, and then we all get back together again on the platform. Maybe what I'll do is I'll put in the chat box my email address and encourage people to send any specific things that they want to see you do in Teams as part of that presentation.
Okay. It seems like the document sharing was of interest. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think people might have just in mind for court appearances at different levels that we're starting to get a sense of. Some are substantive, some are just procedural type hearings, but I think people might have a list of tasks and functions that they want to learn how to do better or learn how to do it all.
If you are using OneDrive, it would make life easier for you within Teams. I can tell you that much, because whatever you put in OneDrive is what's going to show up in Teams. If that helps.
I've successfully linked my Dropbox stuff, but yeah, I agree with Scott.
Yeah.
If you do use the Microsoft storage, I think it's easier, but setting it up with Dropbox or any other cloud storage is pretty easy.
Yeah. Well, this is how you can find the business's social media channels. Eric found my personal, but that's okay. Sorry, I'm reading messages at the same time. So they're all Nawaj Tech, NWAJ Tech. You can message us on Facebook too, email, all of it's there. And I thank you for your time. I did enjoy it. I do like doing these things. I know people don't believe that, but I really do like doing these things. So the more the merrier for me.
That's great, Scott. Thank you for that. I don't know if people have more questions here that they want to
Yeah.
ask. If they do, you can certainly ask them. Otherwise, I put my email in the chat. And if people want to send suggestions for specific activity that they'd like to learn about or see happen in a Teams environment, they can send that to us and we can compile that for you in one singular place, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay. Yeah, so Scott, thanks for being here today. One of the, I sort of know what OneDrive is, I guess. I mean, I'm probably using an equivalent of that, not in Microsoft, but.
Yeah, if you're using Dropbox, it's very similar.
Okay.
Or Box or.
So it's a cloud-based storage facility. Okay.
Exactly. And so OneDrive, the benefit to OneDrive, and I'm not a OneDrive person either, but the benefit to it is that it also syncs to SharePoint and to Teams and to everything else automatically. Whereas Dropbox, you have to configure it for Teams. And not that it's hard, but it's, it's an extra step.
Okay.
Yep. Any other questions? I think the landscaper just showed up. I could have done this outside. All right. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to stop sharing here. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And I will see you next month. Remember, it is privacy and security, and that will be with Dina Cashicone. She's going to do the privacy component, and I'll do the security part. So
That's going to be on June 15th.
June 15th at noon. Yep.
Great.
I'll coordinate with Stephanie. I guess you too.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Scott, for your time.
You're welcome, Cheryl.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much,
Thanks,
Scott.
Scott.
Great job.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Bye, everyone.
Bye.